Live from the local station, this is Weather Authority Weekday.
Hi everyone, I'm Meteorologist Mark Collins on this Wednesday. Thanks for joining us on Weather Authority Weekday. Today we've got a lot to cover. We're talking about the heat, of course, and some rain. Some rain that will be in the forecast this afternoon and evening. This will be your one chance for probably a week for seeing any type of rain coming down over you. So hopefully you get some here. And also we're going to be looking at some really cool pictures from space. We're talking about more tornadoes, this time in Huntsville. We're also talking about tornado outbreaks, and we're also going to be looking at the first tropical wave of the in the Atlantic so far this year. So we're going to cover all that, but first I want to show you the rain that will be coming in this afternoon. We're going to look at the big map here, and there is a cold front, and this cold front could rescue us from those mid 90-degree temperatures, and also it's going to give us some rain. You can see that line tracking in through southern Georgia. So early this afternoon, we'll watch for some of that rain to first show up in our Georgia communities around Waycross through Valdosta, and that would be a couple hours after lunchtime, and then it's going to be working into Jacksonville for that dinner time hour. Now, for those of us in our southern areas from Palatka over to Palm Coast, it's going to be hard to get any measurable amounts of rain since there is some drier air in that area. These showers that will be coming through this evening will put out much less rain in that location. But for most of us here, we're going to be looking for anywhere from about, say, like a third of an inch of rain to possibly a little bit less. So that's the optimistic amounts, about 3/10 of an inch of rain in our gauges here. About a 40% chance of rain will cover it here as we head towards that early evening time frame. Notice temperatures mainly in the low 90s. Now, yesterday we reached 96 degrees for our high. We could see probably about 94 here in the Jacksonville area before that rain comes through. So count on a little bit of a cool down, if you will, but I want you to think about Friday morning. Make sure you get outside and enjoy it because it's going to feel somewhat cool because the humidity is really going to be dropped. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But yes, today is still going to be warm before that rain gets here. We're looking at a westerly wind. That's going to push your temperatures up to about 94, 96 degrees, something that we've felt here through the week. In fact, we broke a record early this week, and we were dealing with those temperatures, which topped out at 97. Today, 94 is the forecasted high, shy of seeing any records being set. We'd have to get to 99 degrees, which was the record back in 1962. So not expecting to see record heat today, nor will we over the next couple of days as we see the heat wave slowly start to unwind and get back to a little bit more seasonal temperatures, but it's still going to be pretty warm. All right, so you see the red and oranges there. That's the best location for getting rain today, a 50 to 60% chance towards the Swanee River Valley, inland Georgia. Still some pretty good odds of rain from around Jacksonville northward in through coastal Georgia, and also around Orange Park. You'll get those thunderstorms probably anytime after about 4 o'clock, with that 4 to 6 o'clock time frame looking pretty good to plan around that rain. This is 3 o'clock in the day. You see up in Pierce County some showers tracking through, and right there along the I-10 corridor through that dinner time hour, 5 to 6 o'clock. Some of you coming home from work might get wet on I-10, then pushing down on I-95 as we head towards that 6 and 7 o'clock time frame. But you notice the intensity fades away as just some light showers will track south of Orange Park into the St. Augustine area, and that's why those rain amounts are not going to do much to really encourage you to shut off your irrigation systems. But there could be some lingering rain into the night in our southern areas, but it's just not going to add up to much. And after this evening's rain, that's it as far as the rest of the weekend. And for those that are planning for Memorial Day, it looks pretty dry into Monday as well. So the amounts of rain here, anywhere from 1/4 of an inch, possibly up to 3/10 of an inch in some areas out to our west. Notice around Palatka, Palm Coast, you're looking at just scant amounts of rain in those areas. Now, once this front goes through, I talked about Friday morning, I want you to get outside and enjoy those sunrise temperatures, because it's not just the actual reading on the thermometer, but the amount of moisture in the air. It's going to plummet, and that dry air is really going to feel good. So if you're a runner, go ahead, schedule a few extra miles on Friday morning. You'll feel invigorated by the low dew points that are coming in behind this second dry front. So that's the mechanism that's really going to pave the way for a rain-free weekend here as we head into Saturday and Sunday. We're looking at dry conditions and temperatures, which will mainly be working their way through the upper 80s on Saturday and Sunday, and maybe we might spend an hour or two briefly in the low 90s. But the heat will be measured. They're going to be coming down those daytime highs, and still a little bit warmer than what we typically see on a 30-year average, which is 87 degrees here in late May. But in general, you're looking at some pretty good conditions to take you through this upcoming weekend, and even into Monday, we're looking at those numbers as well in the low 90s. There you see dew points crashing, even some upper 30s to low 40s as we head into Thursday night and Friday morning. And that's going to feel really nice here. Eventually, though, we'll start to see the moisture levels come back. We're talking about the humidity in the air, not type of rain. But once you get back in the 70s, yeah, it's going to feel sticky. And so here's a bigger picture showing the sticky air will be mainly locked up across Central Florida, South Florida. So if you're going down there, you're not going to feel as good as right here for a staycation this weekend for a 3-day holiday weekend. But by Sunday, yep, we're back into the soupy, balmy air. The 70-degree dew points come back, and it will feel a bit more sticky out there. Lows tonight aren't going to reflect much in the way of this cold front that's coming through this evening. So tonight, you're not going to see much of a change in those overnight low temperatures. But taking you beyond that, you might see that there's a little bit of a dip down into the mid-60s there as we head into this upcoming weekend. We'll go back to that forecast here. Some looks like it jumped ahead, but I want you to focus on those nighttime lows. There you go, into Friday morning, and then Saturday morning we're going to get down into those lower to mid 60s. Some spots over inland Georgia might actually see a 59-degree reading there. So consequence of the dry air, you can kind of get cool at night, and then your daytime highs rebound very quickly into the 90s. So I said after this evening, that's it for rain through the weekend. Monday, I still think Memorial Day is going to be pretty dry. I would probably take that 30% chance out. But starting Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, we're going to start to feel a little bit more humidity around the area, and that could lead to those scattered afternoon showers and thunderstorms. So hopefully this dry weather pattern doesn't settle in for good. May can be a really dry time. This is kind of peak wildfire season for us into early June before we get into those typical afternoon storms. So we'll take what rain that we can get. And today, well, you just might see some of that. All right, so coming up after the break, like I said, we're going to be looking at some pretty amazing tornado pictures. You should see all the debris that's flying around. We're going to talk about that. We're going to show you some out of this world images, and it could be live. We're going to check the stream on what's happening up in space and also talk about that tropical wave. So don't go away. We'll be back right after this. See, that was a quick 2 minutes, wasn't it? All right, now on to some pretty amazing pictures of tornadoes. These were in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama. You know, yesterday or the day before, when I was talking about tornado outbreaks, we saw this all this widespread destruction across the southern plains through Tornado Alley. Now they have moved further east in Alabama. Take a look at this. This was some destruction, almost like a wedge tornado there coming. Just imagine if that was your neighborhood and you saw that coming your way. This person was actually out there taking pictures, so hopefully the tornado is moving away from their vicinity as it appears so in this image. But that is a scary type of sight to see. And some of the damage that we had seen in areas around Oklahoma and especially into Kentucky and Missouri, there were reports of EF3 tornadoes. And those types of damage images that we're seeing are likely to be on the same type of strength of tornadoes. Fortunately for those folks in Alabama and around Kentucky, they're getting a breather as the weather has cleared out. In fact, it's moved off to the mid-Atlantic. There's a threat for some severe thunderstorms, but the tornado risk has definitely dropped out. This is really interesting. You can see all the debris swirling in the air, and this is like sheet metal and all types of scraps of wood that is a very perilous situation to be out in the air with that type of stuff swirling around. You can see at the bottom of the screen, it's even more concentrated. So it looks like the vortex has touched ground. And even though you might not see a funnel is simply the air pressure is so low that it condenses out the moisture in the air and it forms a cloud. And since the air is swirling in the cloud, it forms that V structure or the vortex. So you can have invisible tornadoes if the air doesn't have a lot of moisture in it and might not condense out. So that's not always a definition of a tornado to actually see a funnel. You can have those invisible twisters there, and the debris is clearly a great indication of some type of funnel there, and perhaps if it's touching the ground, then technically it is a tornado. But with Doppler radar, we can look at the debris field, and just like the way radars can pick up insects in the sky or even planes, it can pick up debris in the skies as well. So yeah, fortunately things are settling down there in the southern plains, but what about the tropics? Are things settled there? Well, we have a tropical wave, and that is something that is not of concern. So I'm going to first say that, but on social media, everyone's talking about, oh, we have our first tropical wave of the year. And technically, yes, we do. You can see it right here on the satellite as that green green cloud structure there near the just north of the equator. So let me go back and see if I can get this to zoom in, because I want to show you that this is so close to the equator that there's not going to be any type of rotation to come out of it. But on average, we see about 60 of these African easterly waves that track across the Atlantic, and it takes about 10 days to get from the African coastline over to the Lesser Antilles, and another 3 days if it were to track towards Florida. So in general, to go from Africa to Florida takes 11 days, and the average speed of these easterly waves is about 18 miles an hour. So like again, I said there's about 60 of these that usually traverse the Atlantic, and only 20% of them develop into some type of tropical cyclone. So yes, easterly waves are the seedlings for what could be a tropical depression. Then if it strengthens more into a tropical storm and eventually a hurricane, this one is not. But you can see how there's a long line of clouds there in the Atlantic let me go back to that, in the Atlantic. And this is where the trade winds from the northeast come up with southeasterly winds, and it's called the intertropical convergence zone. And oftentimes you get unsettled convection and storms in that area that can lead to those easterly waves. So it's not anything to be worried about, but as we head towards August, those African easterly waves are usually the primary seedlings for the Cabo Verde storm season. Hurricanes that develop off of those islands on the west coast of Africa, and those usually form the stronger hurricanes. So that satellite is taken from a spacecraft that is anchored in place. It's a geosynchronous satellite, and it shows us those images called the GOES satellite system. But I want to show you the International Space Station image, because they have an actual live stream camera that if you go to the YouTube site, sometimes it's black, sometimes it doesn't always have video, but it does stream live video coming down. But when the receiver stations, when it's in a position in the earth that it can't actually pipe down a live stream, so every hour and a half, it moves one orbit around the planet. So in general, you could see maybe like 9 sunrises, sunsets every day. And this was what it looked like this morning as the sun was coming over. So there's a couple different cameras on there. There's one that's the wide angle forward facing, and it shows the curvature of the earth. That's pretty cool to see as you fly. And that's the way I look at this, is like pretend I'm the pilot on board, just flying at 18,000 miles an hour. That's how fast the thing is going to make it around the planet in 90 minutes. And there's another camera that is actually looking just right below the spacecraft, and that's a swath of about 155 miles wide. And when you have idle time, if you've got one of those TVs that can just stream, you can just sit there on your couch and try to pick out. I love geography, so I'll try to pick out what terrain feature corresponds to the country. And there you're seeing those white spots. Those are just small cumulus clouds. So I'm believing that this is some type of very arid area, maybe in Africa, where those clouds can't really billow up. There's some type of dry air sinking down, and you can kind of make out that the ground looks pretty dry there. You don't see a lot of green, so it must not be over a forested area, but you're starting to see some rivers coming up. And so if you get on the website, you could actually look and it'll give you clues as to what you're looking at. So that's fairly recent, the cameras that have been installed in 4K, and you can check those out on the ISS websites page to see what's happening there in space. So cool stuff overhead, and hopefully you get some rain today coming down on your head. It might cool you down. It might feel really refreshing, especially if you're going out to do some yard work. But watch out, because some of that rain could develop into thunderstorms with some lightning. And well, after today, it looks pretty dry. All right, I'm meteorologist Mark Collins with your Weather Authority weekday forecast, and hopefully you enjoyed what we bring you. We'll see you next time.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.